PFF's look at all 32 NFL team needs rolls on. Today it's the AFC North, starting with the Baltimore Ravens. You can see the breakdown for every team over at ProFootballFocus.com. But when it comes to the Ravens, quarterback's good. We're building around Lamar Jackson, but the top need now getting him some receivers, even though they want to build this run-first attack.
Yeah, that's the thing. They definitely need wide receivers. All they got is Willie Snead after, Michael Crabtree gone this offseason, cut. John Brown walks to Buffalo. It's obviously not a good position on the roster, but you're building this run-heavy offense. I'm not necessarily sure you have to draft a wide receiver early based on the offense you're running. It's going to be run first. Maybe build around that O-line before you build around the receiving core. Would obviously be nice to get them some help, but it's not something you have to reach up and need if you're Baltimore.
And then the two other needs, essentially just the front seven. You've got Terrell Suggs moving on. You've got C.J. Mosley moving on. They've needed to get younger at edge defender for a while, get some more speed at the linebacking core. Let's discuss that front seven in Baltimore and some places they could potentially go.
Yeah, Zadarius Smith moving on as well. So you basically lose your both pass rushers, your middle linebacker. I think they could go any of those positions in the first round. Someone like Devin Bush, I think, would be a perfect fit for that defense and what he brings to the table in terms of speed, blitzing ability. I think that makes a lot of sense in round one. And edge class is so deep that they could go there as well. There will be a quality option sitting for them somewhere in the first round. And it's one where you don't want to wait all the way to the third round to draft edge as well. So I do think that edge could be the place they go.
All right, moving on to the next team in the AFC North. It is the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's all about the offensive line. But we're going to start at linebacker because everybody's giving them Devin White from LSU in their mock drafts, which would be a great fit. Devin White still might be off the board, though.
Yeah, he might be off the board. He might end up going top 10 because of how freaky his athletic traits are. Devin Bush wouldn't be a terrible consolation prize if they do go that route. Might be a little bit of a reach, but they obviously had no problem reaching for Billy Price a season ago if it fits a need, and you can't argue with the need. Worst linebacking core in the NFL a season ago. Lose probably their best linebacker in Vontaze Burfict, which not even a huge loss. He wasn't that good still. So I do think they need not just one linebacker. They probably need two at this point.
Yeah, and it's I think even more important for the Bengals because they're pretty good at corner, and they just got attacked so much in the middle of the field last year. The other big need, offensive tackle. They re-signed Bobby Hart, who's just had a subpar career to this point. Left tackle's been an issue, some question marks with Cordy Glenn there, so they just need youth and talent there. There's some pretty good first-round tackles who could be in the mix.
Yeah, they're in an odd situation where they're paying basically everyone they have up front. Added John Brown to that right guard, or John Miller to the right guard position, Bobby Hart at right tackle, Cordy Glenn at left tackle, and Clint Bowling all are getting paid. And then they drafted Billy Price in the first round, so you're not really going to replace any of them necessarily, but you still needed to upgrade. You're still going to have one of the worst offensive lines if all those guys play this season, so you still need some upgrade somewhere. So it's sort of an interesting situation that they're in. I'd say definitely add at least one, if not two, in maybe early rounds or mid rounds of this draft because you need to develop these guys for down the line. You're not just playing for this year.
Chuma Edoga from USC, the guy that we keep touting as the sleeper who might have some pass protection upside from USC. We didn't discuss quarterback for the Bengals. On the website we said it's essentially yes, no, or maybe. This feels like one of those teams that's a maybe. If Kyler Murray was randomly there, if a good top quarterback is randomly there, do they take him at 11?
Let's say Zach Taylor, he's not beholden to Andy Dalton. You're not, new coach, pretty much carte blanche there. He can do what he wants at the quarterback position if he doesn't want it to be Andy Dalton, or if he has a guy he really has his eye on. So I don't think it's completely out of the question. Now, it's not the quarterback class, in our opinion, that is worth taking that high if Haskins, Murray are already off the board at that point, which it seems like they will be. So I think maybe it's one where you take a third, fourth rounder on a guy maybe to develop as a backup for Dalton there because he has had injury issues over the past few seasons, hasn't played a ton of full seasons in his career here. So I do think it's definitely on the board for them at some point.
And then real quick, their number 3 need for us is tight end. They lose Tyler Kroft, Tyler Eifert, injured every single year. Andy Dalton's been at his best when he had that top-notch Tyler Eifert season. They just need another receiving threat in the middle of the field.
Yeah, for sure. CJ Uzomah, they obviously re-signed him. He's not anything special, though. He's not going to stop me from drafting tight ends. I think they could even use a blocking option, whether it's Trayvon Wesco in later rounds, someone like that to go as second tight end, because both Eifert, Uzomah, not necessarily known for their blocking ability, and they do like to use two tight ends. So I do think that's on the board as well.
All right, let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. Quarterback's all set. They've got Baker Mayfield. Top need we're looking at, though, is cornerback, even after drafting Denzel Ward at number 4 overall last year, which was the right move. Let's get somebody opposite him and continue to build that secondary in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think that's where they should be looking at in round 2. Obviously, a lot of the best options will be off the board at that point, but I think maybe someone like Justin Lane could still be available, the Michigan State cornerback, big, long, someone to pair. You can play basically sides and play matchups with him and Denzel Ward then at that point. So I do think that is probably the position they'll be looking at hardest come second round.
Yeah, and then offensive tackle, they re-signed Greg Robinson, who still isn't the best offensive tackle. Right tackle's been an issue. I think that's another place where you continue to add that youth and develop the next left or right tackle in Cleveland.
Yeah, they obviously have some developmental options. Greg Robinson wasn't the terrible Greg Robinson we saw with the Rams early on in his career last season when he did have to step in there. Desmond Harrison also very much outplayed what you'd expect from a UDFA. So they're nice developmental options, but you'd like to be more sound at that position, at tackle. Again, you're not going to find a guy, though, in the second round that's probably going to step in there and be that guy right away. So it's another, probably just developmental, maybe even a guy who could swing from tackle to inside in this draft. So maybe someone like Trayvon Tate from Memphis, who has experience at tackle, but could also swing in to guard if need be. I think someone like that in the mid-rounds is what they should be looking at.
Solid grades for us from Tate. And then linebacker, Cleveland fans begging for just better linebacker play overall. Joe Schobert's solid. We see Jamie Collins moving on. And just, it's been up and down for the linebacking core in Cleveland over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's not a monstrous need with, like you said, Joe Schobert already entrenched there, but just adding another guy to that mix because of losing Jamie Collins was not working out with him. That was the right move to move on from him. But yeah, someone in the middle round, someone like maybe Voshon Joseph, David Long, someone with some athleticism there to pair with Joe Schobert in that linebacking core.
All right, let's wrap up the AFC North with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's start with the quarterback discussion. They've got Big Ben, but always looking for that next developmental quarterback, even though they've got Mason Rudolph, Josh Dobbs on the roster. I think if you're the Steelers, you're just always eyeballing, evaluating the QB class. If there's a guy you fall in love with that happens to be there, if they loved Will Grier,
yes,
I wouldn't hate them taking Will Grier, but then you balance the short-sightedness of trying to win with Big Ben versus always building for the future.
Yeah, I think after Big Ben's comments a season ago and how they've basically gone all in on Big Ben versus all the other talent on that roster, with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, his comments regarding Mason Rudolph, Big Ben that is, and how he did not, enjoy them wasting sort of a draft pick on it. I'd be hard-pressed to see them go anything early in this draft at the quarterback position. Maybe late, but I don't think it's going to be early.
So the top needs all have to satisfy Big Ben. Let's start with wide receiver. Antonio Brown's moving on. Juju Smith-Schuster looks like he's ready to become that number one wide receiver. And as much as we loved James Washington last year, didn't look great as a rookie.
Yes.
Still some question marks there. And even if he is there, Eli Rogers, yeah, he's in the slot, but wide receiver depth, that's always one of those places where Pittsburgh has been able to crush opposing teams when they just have tons of weapons to cover on the other end.
James Washington was disastrous. Did not look anything like he did at Oklahoma State his first season. So I don't think you can necessarily rely on him. It's not to where I'm going to say he's never going to be good, but I just think you need to add someone else in that mix. Doesn't have to be first round, but I think someone like Hakeem Butler out of Iowa State really fits what they like in terms of wide receivers. Physicality, at the catch point, contested catch sort of guy. He would make a lot of sense for them wherever they end up drafting.
Looks like Plaxico Burress a little bit at times would be a really nice fit. And then it feels like, the back seven, always a place where Pittsburgh needs to give a little love. Cornerback, they went with Artie Burns a couple years ago, more of a man corner for their zone scheme. Depending on what they want to do going forward, do they try to find a better fit, continue to upgrade at corner, especially on the outside?
Yeah, obviously he signed Steven Nelson over the course of the offseason, but he's been up and down over the course of his career. Definitely not someone who you're going to say, oh yeah, we're set at cornerback at the moment. So I think they have to be praying that Byron Murphy, DeAndre Baker, Greedy Williams, one of those three falls to them in the first round. If one of them does, I think whoever it is will be the pick.
And then they've been looking for just improvement at the linebacker position for a couple years now, especially after Ryan Shazier had his unfortunate incident. So adding more speed, coverage ability, playmaking ability to the middle of the defense. Maybe not in the first round unless a Devin Bush is available there from Michigan, but the later rounds probably where they attack this position.
Yeah, if one of those cornerbacks isn't the pick, I think Devin Bush will be the pick for them if he's on the board. Very real chance that both Devin Bush and Devin White aren't there available for them in the first round, which probably means punting to the second or third. Get a blitzing option, get some athleticism in that linebacking core, which, like you said, they've desperately been missing since Ryan Shazier.
Keep an eye on Mack Wilson from Alabama. We've seen people mock him in the first round of Pittsburgh. Don't see him as a first-round prospect, but maybe third or fourth round might be a better place to draft him, and that would be a good spot for Pittsburgh. So there you have it. AFC North team needs. Be sure to get to ProFootballFocus.com for all 32 teams.